Okay, happy Sunday to you. It is December 12th, 2021. Long time since there's been a podcast from me. This is a Subarctic Beekeeper, one of the many, a bit north of Fairbanks, Alaska, owner of Happy Creek Farm. I'm about to go check on the bees. It is negative 38 below zero right now. I am decked out in my Subarctic wear, Loben boots. They're Norwegian, they're made of felt, they're super warm. Wool socks, got a pair of jeans on, but over those I've got some super insulated snow pants. Got a wool shirt on, a hoodie, and then my super insulated jacket along with my gloves and my hat. I should have a face warmer on, but I don't. Going out. Snow's very crisp. My phone might die because of the cold. Got my keys. Make sure I don't lock myself out because that would be terrible. Luckily, I don't have far to walk to the bee barn. It's a beautiful, clear night. Stars visible. Half moon. My bees are in a bee barn that I made last year. Lots of insulation all around, including the floor, as well as, of course, the ceiling and the walls. Motion light just came on. I got out here. My face feels like it's frozen. Haven't been out here for a week or so. Got about, a foot of snow, maybe a foot and a half. I've got a thermometer on the outside of the Arctic entryway. It was in the snow. I'm going to go in the Arctic entryway and close myself in. This is I'm not going to want to close here. Arctic entryway is a small room that allows me to come in and really reduces the amount of cold air that goes into the main bee barn. Right now I have the lights off in here. I can see air leaks from the door. I need to add some more insulation to the door. Things shrink and expand here with the different temperature changes. So things are always getting adjusted. I'm going to turn the light on. See what I can see in here. Bee barn. It's not really made to be a warm place, but it does keep that cold air from flooding in from outside. And in here I've got another thermometer. I've got a temperature of 10 degrees Fahrenheit in here. I've got my broom and my giant dustpan. I'm about to turn this light off, so I'll be in complete darkness. And then I'll open the second door. These are both Arctic entry doors. And go into the bee room. Lights off now. It's totally dark. And I'm going to keep my mouth closed for a second while I turn on the red light. All right, now I'm in the main bee room. Not too shabby. Looking good. There's a higher amount of carbon dioxide in here, so I'm likely to get a bit dizzy after a few minutes. I'll have to go. But what I'm doing is I'm looking over all my hives. I'm going to grab my broom. There's quite a few dead bees on the ground. That's normal. Some die off and then continuous die off due to age and such. What I'm hoping, as I sweep some of the dead bees over, is that those winter bees hatched. They were laid by the queen end of summer, early fall, that they should be alive and in there and keeping the queen warm. There might be a bit of a cluster, bees cluster. They don't heat the hive, they keep the queen warm. Bees do it when they're cold. However, if the cluster is too tight, the bees are too cold, they don't move around to get to the food stores. So the temperature in here ideally is about 41 degrees Fahrenheit. And I've got two thermostats here. One for detecting when the temperature goes too low and one for when it goes too high. Things adjust accordingly. If the temperature is too high, the fresh air intake goes on, lets some cold air in until that temperature balances out. And if the temperature is too low, it kicks on a little space heater I have. And right now, it looks like we're good. Temperature's right where I want it. It's actually a little low. It's about 40. That's fine. That's to make sure the bees go into a metabolic state that is much slower than during the high season, during the summer and the warm months. So they consume less stores. They use less energy. They can still keep the queen warm, but they're still warm enough where they can move through the hive and get to the food stores for that energy they need through these long winter months. These bees have been hived up since October. Last year, I brought my bees out of the bee barn in late March because we were having some warm spells and I couldn't bear the thought of losing any colonies because they had not had a cleansing flight in so many months. And I wanted to take advantage of the heat and the sun outside and let the bees have their cleansing flights. I put them on my deck. If you listen to one of the earlier podcasts, you can hear all about that. So this year, they're going to be in here for a total of, 6 to 7 months. It's a long time to hold your feces. So that's why at the end of the season, Up here in the subarctic, we feed them 2-to-1 sugar water mixture. We don't leave their honey in the hive for them. It contains too much moisture and they would need to eliminate. With this reduced amount of moisture in the 2-to-1 mixture, they're able to use up their energy and not have to eliminate. Although you should see it in the spring, it's a shitstorm. They're flying out, poop everywhere, and bee poop is sticky and smelly. I'm looking at the hives. I've got each hive is numbered. I am not seeing any signs of activity. I learned some things last year that I put into play this year. So I've got foam board in front of each hive at an angle so the bees can come out and they can find their way back in. Last year what happened was I had a temperature spike with some confusion on my heat and cold stuff going on. And the bees came out and flew, and because there's only a red light in here, they don't see it, and it's dark for them. The red light allows me to see them and the hives, though. Anyways, they flew out, and they weren't able to get back into their hives. With this covering in front of them, they can come out, wander near the entrance, and they can go right back in. No one's going to be taking any crazy flights out. The dead bees on the ground are bees that have made it around those pieces of foam board, ready to die. I am going to keep them. You can hear me sweeping them up. I keep them in a big bucket in the Arctic entryway, and then from there I will take some bees out and sample them for nosema virus and for mites. I'm also looking on the outside of the hives to see if there's any sign of dysentery. If there was any sign of feces, dysentery could be nosema, could just be the need to eliminate. And I'm not seeing, I saw a tiny bit, I saw a spot on one hive right in the front. Might have been a bee that flew out to eliminate and couldn't hold it, and out it came. I do have one tiny hive over here that I'm a little bit concerned about. It was a last minute nuke hive from a split. I'm concerned that there's not enough entrance space for the air circulation, so I'll have to get in there and move that little guy. I have it in the corner to keep it warm. I've got some desiccant in here to make sure the humidity stays low. And it is in a colander on top of a 5-gallon bucket, and it sits right in the center of the hives. While I'm in here, I'm going to update my Govee monitor and make sure it's got the most recent data. So I've got a little cube in here that monitors the temperature and humidity for me, and that data is transmitted via Wi-Fi. Sometimes our Wi-Fi signal goes out, depending if we're having a snowstorm or something, and that data doesn't get loaded onto my phone. I've got my phone with me and I'm updating. You can hear the fan I have going on. That also helps circulate the air. The last reading it has on there is December 6th. So I've got a few days of data to gather here. In my house I have a little thing that's plugged into the wall, and that's what communicates typically between the temperature monitor in the bee barn and the data collector. I've got everything loaded up right now, and it says the temperature is 40.8, humidity is 19.3. The humidity is pretty low. The risk with having such low humidity is that if the bees run low on stores that they made, I've got some sugar cake in there on the tops of the hives, under the covers of course, and that little bit of humidity along with the condensation produced by the bees allows the sugar cake to melt a tiny bit so the bees can take it up. All right, everything is going great in here. No complaints, and we're heading towards solstice, which is great. We've had some cold spells this winter. Not like usual. We've had some temperatures of 40 to 45 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Those are days you just want to sit at home, make a big fire, read, eat carbohydrates, hibernate. All right, I'm going to leave the bee barn. I've got to make sure I close it up. I would hate to make a mistake and not close the door all the way or something and have an air leak and then lose all the colonies. Right now I've got 16 colonies in here. We'll see who makes it through the winter. Hardest time tends to be in spring. But so far, so good. What I do want to do is come back. I bought a tiny microphone for my phone, and I can stick it in the bottom of the hive just to get a recording in here if they're buzzing along. See if I can get any sounds. I like to have some proof of life. All right, head's getting a little dizzy. Opening the Arctic door, turning off the red light, and going into the absolutely black Arctic entryway. I'm a bit claustrophobic, so I have this little fear of locking myself in here. I'm going to shake that door, make sure that it's closed all the way. There's no air leaks. It's wonderful. It's great. I'm really pleased. I'm going to turn off the light. I'm going to make a note to myself to get some more strip insulation for that door, for this door that I just opened right now. The motion light has just gone off. I'm closing this door to the Arctic entryway. Make sure it's closed, and I'm going to tug on it a few times. Too risky not to make double sure that things are okay. In this type of temperature, it doesn't take long before one's face feels frozen. So I'm outside walking to the house, and it does feel frozen. Well, I hope you're having a good winter, that you're taking care of yourself and your bees. Until next time, this is Subarctic Beekeeper. Take care. This podcast is copyrighted and all rights are reserved. Thanks for listening.